trainer Jim Laird, and since we have a couple of pregnant misfits, myself being one, I thought maybe we would talk today about kind of how you can rework your training program a little bit and to suit your energy level, because that's going to go way down in the first trimester. So if you're ready for that, yay! And so I'm just going to ask you some questions.
Sure.
I guess to start out, I noticed for me in the first trimester, like I said, my energy went way down. So what do you recommend doing during that time?
The biggest thing is just keep moving and go on how you're feeling. Your body's just changing so quickly. A lot of it's going to depend on your fitness level. If you have a really high fitness level going in, you're going to be able to maintain some of that. If you're like, a lot of women will all of a sudden get pregnant and decide they want to start working out. You got to be really careful with that. You just want to keep moving just so you feel better. You're obviously going to want to cut out any kind of hard conditioning. You don't want to add any more stress to your body than it's already under being expecting. But it's going to vary from woman to woman. You just basically have to go on how you feel. But the first trimester is really rough for most of the women I've trained. It's just your hormones are all over the place, and you just kind of have to learn that things are changing. And a lot of women, they lose the ability to control their core. So this would be, you want to back off on your weights a little bit so you're not lifting anything that's close to maximum, and you want to make sure that everything's done correctly and that sort of thing.
Okay, and I was asking you before about the core and if there was anything specific that pregnant women can do to regain that, or I think you said it was kind of you just have to wait.
Well, there's just so much going on. Your body's going to have to figure it out. You just don't want to be too aggressive because there's so many changes going on. I mean, obviously you can do in the first few weeks, months, you can do dead bugs and things like that. But as you develop, start showing, you're not going to be one on your back for long periods of time. We do a lot of carries with the women I've trained. A lot of carries, I really like that because it makes you kind of stand up tall, good posture. Lots of upper back work because you're growing and you're shifting. This thing is growing forward, so you're getting pulled forward and you're extending back. I mean, it's just a havoc, and you can only do so much. Like you can go work with somebody who works specifically on massage with ladies who are expecting, and that can help a lot. But you're basically just doing the best you can. I mean, things are changing so quickly. The one thing you want to really stay away from is any kind of like crazy lunge type movements, because the hormone relaxin is getting you ready to give birth. You can really rip things up pretty bad. People do really well with squats, like front squats, regular squats. Conventional deadlifts become a little bit of a problem because most women, they have a hard time like hinging over. It just feels really uncomfortable. So we usually go to a sumo style deadlift for most of it. We'll do a lot of half kneeling stuff, which is like one knee down for core stability and just kind of to keep things neutral, just to let the body kind of figure out on its own what's going on.
Okay. You had mentioned that as long as, I think this is important for everyone to remember, that if you haven't been weightlifting before you got pregnant, you probably shouldn't start.
Right.
But if you've been weightlifting well before you got pregnant,
Right.
You're pretty strong, you've gotten your good movement, you can continue and just kind of scale back depending on how you feel.
Correct.
And you mentioned changing from conventional to sumo. Is there anything else that
like incline, you just got to kind of work around it. Incline dumbbell presses, so you're not laying flat on your back. You're in an incline, palm in. That's going to really, that way you can do some upper body work. Lots of lat pull downs, things like that. Pushing the prowler, just making sure your heart rate doesn't race out of control. The cool thing about being pregnant is a lot of it's self-limiting because of the baby and that you're not going to be able to take in a lot of oxygen, so you're going to have less energy, you're going to have less capacity. So I think it's really important, if you've been doing a lot of activity, you're still going to be able to do a lot of low-level activity. Like a couple hundred years ago, women used to work in fields, give birth, and then go back to working in fields, but that's low-level activity. I think the thing you have to really be careful of is like really hard conditioning. Like you don't want to be doing met contact training or anything like that, where you're taking your body into like a glycolytic state. It's just, running from a grizzly bear while you're pregnant is probably not a good idea.
Yeah.
You want to try and avoid that.
Okay. Is there anything else that you can think that's really super important for pregnant women to know while they're lifting?
Just listen to your body and don't feel like you have to be, just think long term and just think about, don't put this pressure on yourself to be this like super fit. The number one priority is just being healthy and feeling good. And then once you're done, I'd highly recommend going and seeing a physical therapist so that you can get your core all straightened out before you start getting back into really hard training. But if you've been training the whole time, you should be able to maintain a good level of strength all the way through. You'll have a much easier, based on all the ladies I've worked with, and it's a lot, I'd have to count it up, but it's over the last 13, 14 years, it's been a lot of them. You can maintain a really high level of strength and fitness, and then just come right back into it. The hardest part after birth is the feeding and then being up all night and all that kind of stuff. So you just have to realize that you're not the number one priority now. This creature that this baby creature, this life you've created is. So you have to basically, remember that you're not number one, but at the same time still making sure you do enough to take care of yourself. And so I would suggest, women do a lot of walking, meditation, that sort of stuff to kind of just make sure they reduce stress, because a lot of women I see when they're pregnant are under a lot of stress because they're just, our society is not set up to be favorable towards women, especially, when they're expecting. They still have to work, they still have to do all these other things. So just managing stress and taking care of yourself, I think, is the number one priority.
And I think one thing I'd like to say is that I do deal with a lot of stress. Most of it I put on myself, but
sure.
So it took me a while to kind of, with this being my first, if you're having your first child, that is even super stressful in itself because you have no idea what you're doing, and
Sure.
then there's all this research and everyone's telling you stuff.
Right.
So I think one of the things that was hard for me to get over is, like you said, not focusing on your numbers and pushing yourself. And because at the time I was getting ready for our first meet and I was super psyched for that, and it can take some time to just settle into it. But now I'm comfortable where I am, and I understand that I'm still staying healthy and fit for the baby, and that I'm really excited about that. And I think
performance goals definitely have to take
yes.
take a back seat.
Absolutely.
Because it's not a priority, and some people can still perform at a really, really high level, which is awesome. That doesn't mean everybody can. So you have to figure out what works best for you.
Right, and I think the reason why I was having such a hard time is because in the beginning my energy went so down. I went from I could push myself to being barely able to come in
Right.
and feel like I could get through my warm up,
Right.
and that comes back, I promise. I was starting to feel like it wasn't going to come
Right.
back, but
And
it does.
I think the mistake a lot of women make is that when they feel like that, they just sit on the couch and eat ice cream and cookies.
And it's tempting,
It
but
is
you
tempting,
have to
but
come in.
You have to come in and at least do the warm up. You don't need to come in and you don't need to be crazy, but if you just come in and move around and socialize, especially I think getting around other women that have been through the same experience, and having that community, especially if you have a really positive community. I think a lot of women, there's two folds. There's the women that don't do anything, and then there's the women that are in the communities where there's a lot of pressure for them to be ultra fit. So some women are being pulled down you've got to train hard, you've got to keep training because you're pregnant, and you've got to prove that pregnant women can still train hard. And then you've got the other side that's like, I feel like garbage. So you want to end up somewhere in the middle. If you feel like garbage, you should go for a walk, you should get moving, that's going to help you. And then on the other side of it, you want to make sure that you don't, push that envelope, because
Right.
it's just not worth it.
Yeah, and be honest with your trainer. If you're feeling like crap one day, just
Right.
say it, and do your warm up an extra few times. I did that a lot. I did my warm up like 4 times, and then either I just go home or maybe do something light, and you just go by how you feel, and you just get through that period, because you will.
Right, and the time, once you're done with this, and you maintain your base and maintain your strength levels, and then, once you get through that initial shock of having a child and adjusting your lifestyle, then it's time to, chase some performance when it's appropriate.
Great. Well, thank you so much.
You're welcome.